Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this our council meeting on the 12th of December 23. As the meeting chair, I give my consent for this ordinary council meeting to be streamed live, recorded and published online. Anyone who is invited to read out a question or make a submission will be recorded, and their voice, image and comments will form part of that live stream and recording. The Chair or the CEO have the discretion and authority at any time to direct the termination of interruption of live streaming. Such direction will only be given in exceptional circumstances where deemed appropriate. That may include where the content of debate is considered misleading, defamatory or potentially inappropriate to be published. The live stream will stop prior to the closed section of the meeting and will recommence for the conclusion of the meeting. The public is able to view this live stream via our website at www.pyrenees.vic.gov.au. Should technical issues prevent the continuation of the live stream, the meeting will continue as long as a quorum can be maintained and, where possible, a recording of the meeting will be published on Council's website. Where a quorum cannot be maintained, the meeting will be adjourned until the issue is resolved or the meeting postponed to another time and date in accordance with the Council's governance rules. I would at this stage ask you to all be upstanding for the opening prayer. Heavenly Father, we ask you to give your blessing to this Council, direct and prosper its deliberations to the advancement of your glory and the true welfare of the people of the Pyrenees Shire.
Amen.
Amen. I would ask you to remain standing if you would, please, and we'll have a minute's silence to remember Judy O'Connor, who passed away yesterday, the wife of our former councillor, mate. So if you would mind, please. Thank you, councillors. Acknowledgement to country. We acknowledge the people past and present of the Wadawurrung, Jar Jar Wurrung, Eastern Maar and Watchabalek tribes whose land forms Pyrenees Shire. We pay our respect to the customs, traditions and stewardship of the land by the elders and people of these tribes on whose land we meet today. There are no apologies. Any notice of disclosure of interest, councillors, officers? No.
We didn't close, sorry. Yes.
Thank you.
Do that.
Yep. Confirmation of the previous minutes. The minutes of the ordinary meeting of council held on Tuesday the 21st of November 23 and closed meeting of council held on Tuesday 21st of November 23. Move Councillor Clark, second Councillor Ferraro. All those in favour? Those carried. Members of the public participation. Members of the community are encouraged to participate in public ordinary council meetings by asking questions or presenting a submission. This can be done by attending in person or by submitting in writing prior to 12 noon on the day of the meeting, online through council's website or by mail or hand delivered. If a question or submission is submitted in writing, this will be read by the chair during public participation, stating the person's name and township. Question time will be held first, followed by public submissions. 30 minutes is allowed for the total period of public participation. Time extensions may be allowed at the discretion of the chair, subject to the provisions of the governance rules. Person may ask a maximum of 2 questions at any one meeting. The chair will allocate a maximum of 5 minutes to each person who wishes to address council or ask questions. The chair, councillor or council officer to whom a question is referred may immediately answer the question or take the question on notice for answering at a later date. There will be no discussion or debate with public attendees. However, councillors may ask questions of the attendee for clarification. So I ask the public, are there any questions this evening? No, we'll move to items for noting. Corporate and community services. Somebody prepared to move? Councillor Keogh, seconded Councillor Smith. Eason. All those, no questions, councillors, all in favour? It's carried. 10.1.2 project update December. Did I miss one? Anyone prepared to move that one? Councillor Clark, Councillor Ferrari. Any questions? Comments? No. All in favour? It's carried. Councillor activity reports. Move Councillor Clark again. Move second Councillor Easton. Any questions or comments? All in favour? Going beautifully. Moving into items for decision. 13.1, the economic development and tourism. I'll hand over to Mr. Nolan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report, councillors, is to present the Beaufort Linear Master Plan, which is in draft, and a copy of the plan has been circulated to councillors. And there's been an opportunity for councillors to have a critical look at that this afternoon as well. Mr. Mayor, the funding for this project came about through council's participation in the integrated water management planning process, and an application was made and was successful for a grant through DECA for $85,000 and a council contribution of $25,000 to undertake a master plan for the section of the Garibaldi Creek from the Beaufort Lake to and beyond the rail crossing. The plan has been the subject of an extensive range of community engagement, and the objectives of the plan essentially is to improve the water quality in the Garibaldi Creek, to engage with local community, First Nations people, seek input into a project to encourage visitors to Beck Street Playground area to explore the town in more detail, thereby lengthening their visits and creating more opportunities for them to visit the town. To formalise pedestrian linkages between the lake, the school precinct, the RV park, the swimming pool, the caravan park and the Beck Street Playground, and to improve the amenity of the area along the Garibaldi Creek for visitors camped in the RV free camping at Ordus Lane, and to rejuvenate and landscape the area north of the railway line, which is expected to become a town entry in the event of a future highway bypass. Councillors, this is a long-term plan, and it's potentially a hidden gem within Beaufort, and that was evidenced by the amount of enthusiasm from the local community when engagement over this project came about. The engagement consisted of a survey of the community, which was done in August and September. There was a workshop held at the Beaufort Community Bank Complex. There was a site walk. There were street surveys in the main street. There were meetings with individual stakeholders and groups. There were visits by council officers to residents that adjoined the site. There were classroom activities at the school. There were public meetings held particularly on the 1st of November. There were 2 briefings of council, and the draft master plan, then with all that input, was put on public exhibition between generally November. And whilst on exhibition on our engagement hub, there were 536 page views and 305 unique visitors to the site. And then there was further input and changes made to the plan by the consultants engaged to produce the draft that you have in front of you, councillors. I guess what's important to understand is that there is no budget for the construction of this project at this point in time. That will be subject to future a funding strategy. Both the capital and the operation and maintenance costs. The estimated capital cost is in the order of $3 million, and the annual operation and maintenance cost, once fully constructed, is in the order of 100,000 or more. Of course, the site is split into various zones, and there's an opportunity for council to undertake these improvements in a staged way over a period of time once funding is determined. And the design of the project has regard to the fact that council, there are constraints on operations and maintenance costs, and there's a need to ensure that that it doesn't become a drain on the community into the future. So there have been some provisions made within the design for certain treatments that establish native grasses and plants that require minimal maintenance, for example. And then there's some further ongoing sort of conversations around certain aspects of the concept design, which could be further elaborated to improve the ongoing sustainability of the project. Councillors, at this stage, there is a recommendation there that council provides in principle support for the draft linear master plan pending completion of final amendments to the plan and the economic assessment as outlined in the report.
Thank you, Mr. Nolan. We have a recommendation. Move Councillor Ferrari, seconded Councillor Clark. You wish to speak, Councillor Ferrari?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Although this is only in principle support and it's the draft, I really look forward to this plan or this project getting off the ground, and it'll be very exciting and very beneficial to the Beaufort community in connecting the township with the Lake precinct. Once completed, or even when partially completed, it's going to encourage a whole range of activities and develop areas of the town that are certainly in need of attention and development. It'll really neaten up that area along the Garibaldi Creek up to beside the pool and up towards the lake. It'll be just fantastic to enhance that area. It's such a nice area. It's just going to beautify the town, encourage tourism and interest and people to come and have a look and use that facility. I look forward to its eventual commencement once funding is secured, and of course we've still got some work to do with the plan. It's only in draft form. And just a couple of things of note: the acquisition of the old Beaufort Primary School Oval will significantly enhance the successful development of that area because it's right in that corridor. And this project is fairly major, but it's also linked to a number of our other council strategic plans and action plans. So I look forward to it getting off the ground. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any further speakers? Councillor Clark?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just to echo Councillor Ferrari's comments, I'd firstly like to thank those that we engaged to actually do the consultation. It's been really comprehensive, and also the council officers who supported them. It's a really, really good piece of work. Connectivity is often really hard to achieve in an urban environment like this. But the fact that we have got connectivity all the way from the lake right through to Crown land on the other side of the railway line is terrific. We need to make sure we keep that opportunity open for us. I think it gives us the planning some really clear directions in terms of some recreational opportunities, but also some flood mitigation opportunities. So I think it'll be a real benefit for the township.
Thank you. Councillor, any further questions or comments? I'll put the recommendation. Those in favour? That is carried. Thank you. Item 13.2, the local primary school recycle bin request. Thank you, Mr. Gowns.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is for council to consider support for a purpose-specific bin to collect container deposit scheme eligible drink containers in a prominent location within High Street, Avoca, to enable a funding opportunity for the Avoca Primary School. A letter signed by 17 Avoca Primary School students requesting a recycling bin to be set up in the main street of Avoca was presented to council at the November council meeting. Correspondence was sent to the Avoca Primary School to advise them of some additional container deposit scheme fundraising options available to it. The placement of a purpose-specific bin in the main street of Avoca requires some consideration regarding the amenity of the streetscape. In order to maintain the amenity, ideally a bin should have a bin surround in keeping with the adopted practice within the High Street of Avoca. Currently, council has a surplus of one specific bin surround that could be adapted with some minor alterations to make the bin fit for purpose. And this would involve effectively just having a slot that would only allow container-sized material to go through the throat of it. Some cost options are included in this report for council consideration. And just by way of kind of cost understanding, a new bin surround is in the order of $2,680, and the repurposed bin surround would cost council approximately $380. Ultimately, council just needs to consider whether these costs should be borne by the primary school as part of their initiative, or whether these costs could be borne by council, as this initiative may assist council's objective in reducing recyclable materials going to landfill. Council officers have investigated an appropriate location in High Street, Avoca, and recommend that the ideal location would be next to the existing waste bin at the shelter near the playground. The letter that was sent to the school following the tabling of the joint letter provide an alternate option to receive funds from CDS directly. This involves the primary school registering as a community group on the CDS website and gives anyone depositing CDS eligible containers the ability to directly donate their refund to the school. And that could be done conjointly with this, so both options are viable options. There are risks in having recycle bins in the main street of Avoca, as past practice has resulted in large amounts of contamination. However, many councils are moving towards reinstating recycling bins in public areas due to a higher level of community information and compliance. If the Avoca Primary School takes full responsibility for the bin, they will also need to take responsibility to remove any contamination from the eligible containers. The installation of a dedicated recycle bin in Avoca would provide a fundraising opportunity for the Avoca Primary School. It's the officer recommendation that council supports the installation of a dedicated recycle bin in High Street, Avoca on a 6-month trial basis, and that council requests a future report to be presented to council following the trial period.
Thank you, Mr. Gowns. We have a move Councillor Easton, seconded Councillor Keogh. Councillor Easton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Gowns, for putting this report together. Again, the Avoca Primary School looking at the environment and hoping to make a couple of dollars on the side. The installation that's been selected, not having a recycling bin, I think will be an advantage to the community of Avoca, and I support the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Keogh, you wish to speak?
I do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's a fantastic idea, and just want to support that again. I think it's a wonderful idea, particularly coming from the students themselves. So thank you.
No further speakers. I'll put the recommendation. Those in favour? That is carried. Item 13.2.2, Mr. Gowan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is to provide council with the usage data on the recently installed electric vehicle charging stations in Beaufort and Avoca. And the usage information of this report is for the period August to October this year, and shows that there has been significant usage in both locations. The usage report provided by EV, who is the network operator, includes information such as the number of sessions for each month and the charging time in kilowatts provided, with data broken down for each location. The EV Networks report contains the CO2 emissions saved due to the replacing of internal combustion engine vehicles and the CO2 emissions saved using green power, along with a comparison of energy usage and CO2 emissions saved. In terms of the number of sessions, for the 3-month period, there was a total of 245 sessions in Beaufort. And there was also a total of 41 for Avoca. Now, it's fair to say that the traffic volumes on the Western Highway might contribute to that, but also that the Avoca charging stations have more recently gone in, so it's early days for the Avoca side. By installing EV charging stations, council's providing a renewable source of energy to power vehicles. This in turn addresses climate change impacts produced from the use of fossil fuels. Both sites have been operating well and have exceeded expectations in terms of usage, given that they have only recently been installed. Their usage will only increase as EVs become more popular. Having these sites available will increase patronage to local businesses, as charging takes on average about 30 minutes. Therefore, it's the officer recommendation that council notes this report and that council seeks further reports on EV charging usage being presented as data is collected.
Thank you, Mr. Gowans. We have a recommendation. Move Councillor Eason. Councillor Clark. Councillor Eason.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Gowans, we have a third EV charging station, one in Amphitheatre. Is that also available to collect data?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Eason, for your question. It's a very good question. You're right. We do have a third operation at Amphitheatre. The data is from a different company for that one, but it would be the officer's intention to bring that data up as it becomes available.
Thank you, Mr. Gowans. Yes, I note the Avoca units being used on occasion, and the numbers show that. Very nice to see the figures here in Beaufort, but I think it's the Western Highway versus Sunraysia at that stage. And very happy to put this recommendation forward.
Thank you. Any further comments, councillors? Put the motion. Those in favour? It's carried. 13.3, the council plan progress update. Thank you, Ms. Bramwell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report provides council with an progress report on operational activities that support the delivery of the strategic goals and priorities of the council plan 2021-2025 as at the end of November 2023. Work continues, of course, to progress implementing the multi-year operational initiatives designed to support the delivery of the council plan, and ensuring the delivery of that plan remains foremost in the minds of all officers and business units as part of their operational activities. Following the end of financial year report, actions completed in previous years and those few items that council resolved to remove from the council plan were removed from the report to ensure continued focus on current or future activities. And a report was provided to councillors separately, and it provides the progress update as at November. And it's the officer's recommendation that council notes the information provided in this report and the attachment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Recommendation. Councillors move. Councillor Eason, second. Councillor Ferrari. Any comments? Put the motion. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. 13.3.2 Audit and Risk Committee. Thank you once again, Ms Bramwell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is to provide Council with an update of the Audit and Risk Committee meeting, which was held on the 28th of November. A brief overview of the issues considered by the committee is provided in the body of the report, and I'll take those as read. At the start of the meeting, committee members and the internal auditor met in a closed session for a discussion without council officers. Discussion focused on the proposal to meet 4 times a year instead of 3 from 2024, staff turnover, and any issues arising for the internal auditors. An update against the internal audit programme was provided, and a copy of this is also attached for council information. In line with requests made by the committee at the last meeting, the planned review of HR recruitment and selection was brought forward to September next year. An internal audit review was conducted in October, and a report was provided to the Audit and Risk Committee meeting on cyber security, which is very topical given the risk profile of cyber at the moment. The review did find that a reasonable cybersecurity framework for identifying and assessing threats was in place within the organisation, and several process strengths were identified, and also several opportunities were identified to improve cybersecurity. The tenure for independent committee members was also under review. The independent committee member, Mr Brian Keane, ended in November 2023, and in accordance with normal practice and following discussion with Mr Keane, the CEO reviewed the performance of the committee and offered a 1-year extension of Mr Keane's tenure, which was accepted. In 2024, the tenure of the other 2 independent committees also come to an end. Mr Rod Poxon is scheduled to expire, not him personally, but his tenure, in May 2024, and a review will be undertaken in advance of that date, and expected that his tenure will be extended. But also in April 2024, the tenure of independent committee member and chair, Ms Wendy Honeyman, will expire, and that marks the end of 9 years of her duty on Pyrenees Shire Council's Audit and Risk Committee. And under the requirements of the Audit and Risk Committee charter, her tenure will end then, she cannot continue any further. So her last meeting will be in March 2024, and recruitment for a replacement member will be conducted early in 2024. The Audit and Risk 2024 annual work plan and meeting schedule was discussed and recommended for approval by council. And the discussion on the gap between the meetings, the normal meetings held in November and May, which is fairly lengthy, has caused some problems with decision making and full participation by committee members on planning for budget and things like this was discussed, and therefore it was proposed and accepted by the committee that we move to a 4-meeting schedule next year, starting in March. And those dates will allow for key reporting to be brought to the committee in a timely manner. A draft annual work plan for 2024 was approved by the committee, and a copy is provided for council for endorsement. It's the officer's recommendation that council notes the information reported, provided in this report and attachments, and endorses the Audit and Risk Committee work plan and amended meeting date scheduled for 2024. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a recommendation. Thanks, Councillor Ferrari. Seconded, Councillor Eason. Comments? No comments? Put the motion. Those in favour? It's carried. 33.3. You're back in your frame again, Ms Bramwell. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This report is provided to council as part of its biannual risk reporting obligations. And council is requested to note the information provided on global risk trends, BBI updates, and accept the emerging risks to be input into the strategic risk register. Council maintains 2 risk registers, the strategic risk register and the enterprise risk register. The strategic risk register, of course, is monitored by council and reviewed as a minimum every 12 months. There have been some updates to the treatment plans in the current strategic risk register. So there are 3 treatment plans that have been completed and transferred to current controls. This is the risk on financial sustainability. More details in the report. For the risk around cyber and data insecurity, 2 treatment plans have been completed and transferred to current controls. And a new treatment plan has been input on the cybersecurity risk in the strategic risk register to implement the recommendations from the internal audit review. And also a customer experience risk, which is a failure to reverse the downward trend in community satisfaction. A new treatment plan was input for 2023 customer satisfaction survey. The treatment plan around the implementation and conduction of the customer satisfaction survey in 2023 was completed and removed also. We plan to work with council again in early 2024 to review the strategic risk register, and we're also going to, excuse me, re-review the risk appetite tolerances and your statements at the same time. There's 2 emerging financial risks for the organisation that we will be inputting into the strategic risk register. So 2 factors that are likely to impact cash flow over the next 2 years. One is the impact of flood recovery works, with payments being made in advance of cash advances or claims reimbursements being made. Although we've had cash advance against flood works being done or refurbishment works being done, we're already ahead of the money we've received then, and the claims for works conducted have not yet been processed. So reimbursement is now behind again, so council is having to fund the works with flood works. So we are requesting another cash advance, but that impact does have a long-term, well, a short-term and a long-term impact on our finances. And the cost of living crisis is impacting Shire residents, of course, and rates payments are often the last to be paid when a ratepayer is under financial stress. In addition, expected legislative control in the near future, removing the ability of councils to impose debt collection measures in the first instance will also impact councils' ability to gain repayment within a timely period. So that is considered really to be the biggest financial cash flow challenge over the next 2 years for us. Another emerging risk that was identified, as we did discuss some time ago, that we commissioned a series of engagements with community groups on the practice of including DECA, Committee of Management and Facilities, in our insurance programme, community facilities. And this is a long-term legacy issue that all local government have in Victoria. And it was expected that the project has now been completed, and it was expected that the project would clarify council's position on whether to continue providing insurance coverage for those non-council managed facilities, or to recommend a transfer of insurance coverage responsible to the committee of management concerned. Unfortunately, the report, although it did recommend that insurance costs should be transferred to the committees, it highlighted a statewide issue with more complex ramifications regarding the lack of support that such committees receive from DECA and the potential for the cost to make such committees unviable, financially unsustainable. So the report has raised further risks that are included in the body of the report and that are now being discussed within councils in our local area between officers to see if we can come up with a strategy of how to move forward and recommend to council how we move forward. So at this point, it's not suggested that any decision be made or any action. This is just provided as an update for you at this point, and further work will be conducted in 2024 to see what potential solutions we can come up with. With regards to risk trends, officers perused a series of global risk reports, as we always do at this time of year. identifying trends that could impact on council operations in 2024 or beyond. There wasn't a lot of new things in the global risk reports, but there was some increases in some. Cyber risk and digital integrity and disruption remained one of the top risks, of course. Ransomware and cyber integrity attacks continue to grow. And the need for investment however, the need for investment in technology and data protection is essential to drive productivity growth, but alongside that, and that includes adopting AI and things like this, because we can't escape from that. But alongside of that, we also have to ensure that our data protection remains top notch, so we don't have any breaches. So it was considered that in 2024, safeguarding the integrity of technology and data from emerging threats will be more challenging than ever. And it is noted that adverse outcomes are not only costly from a monetary perspective, but also from a loss of trust from the community in government, and particularly in our layer of government. And it's amazing to think that cyber criminals, as I call them, are now being called threat actors in most things about cyber, which I find is seems to be diminishing the.
They sound a hell of a lot nicer, don't they?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I find it quite amusing that they're called threat actors. But they are using AI to increase their capability to increase the pace and scale of attacks. But the deployment of AI systems is something that we're going to have to embrace. And there was, I did some risk, and the group risk officer at Zurich Insurance stated that people who overestimate the short-term impact and underestimate the long-term impact. So we might all be frightened about AI at the moment, but in 10 years' time, we will not be able to believe we ever lived without it. So, that's a reality, really. Climate change disruption, of course, year after year, it tops the global risk reports, and that's not likely to change. And as the one report said, it remains the biggest risk facing humanity. And the coming year is likely to continue with increasingly frequent and severe weather events. But associated impacts for council are not limited to the direct impacts of natural disasters. Although significant, exposure to regular natural disasters may impact economics to a point where insurance becomes difficult to get. Either insurers and underwriters will refuse to provide coverage for natural disasters, or the premium will be such that it will be no longer viable for us to take it out. So that is a potential risk in the future. Supply chain fragility is also reported to be further exposed. Lots of disruptions have impacted supply chain stability over the last few years, and even the more remote political disturbances in the world, wars in the world, impact globally with supply chains, but it does filter down to the supply chains in here, both in goods and services. So that's further disrupted by uncertainty. And there's a growing regulatory risk as well, focused on the other two risks that we talked about, like climate change and cybersecurity. Governments around the world and in Australia are bringing in new legislation to both monitor emissions, and there's the Climate Change Action Bill from the Commonwealth in Australia, but it's being led by Europe and US, of course, but it is, of course, starting to come in here. And cyber and data protection, regulators are likely to define national and regional frameworks to control that environment. So these are all going to impact on us as well, with a greater impact on workload. And with all that risk landscape, this is a very complex risk landscape that officers are working in now. So, and it says often said that change is the only constant, and that's certainly true for us. And so in addition to the risks detailed above in the report, the council and its officers continue to manage other risks, and a full raft of different risks: financial sustainability, cost of living, natural disaster recovery and preparation, ongoing pandemic impacts on staff wellbeing, changing workplace expectations, and ongoing customer dissatisfaction. So managing that complex polycrisis, and that's in inverted commas, polycrisis environment is challenging and increases the focus of the risk management. Increasingly, the focus of a risk management program is that of ensuring adequate preparation for and resilience to the risk landscape. So in 2024, the risk management framework, which has tended to be in the traditional view more focused on the risk process and things around risk, traditional risk management, is going to be reviewed to build a more holistic, cross-functional and integrated risk approach, with the processes built around the requirements of the business and simplified rather than from the risk process. So in summary, major themes for the next 12 months continue to identify a high level of uncertainty, and cybersecurity, climate change and associated supply chain vulnerabilities the key focus of attention. I did also give you an update as at the end of August for the VBI, which is our defined benefits superannuation scheme. The estimated monthly VBI at the end of August was at 103.9, which is within the assumptions or the requirements where we don't have to, there's not likely to be a call on council or anything like that. So at this point, there's no action required there. I'm sorry to have been a bit long with this report, but the officer's recommendation is that council notes the information provided on global risk trends in the VBI, receives the emergent risk information, which will be included within the 2024 strategic risk registry review, and accepts the changes made to the treatment plans against the strategic risk register. Thank you.
Thank you for that very in-depth report, Ms Brownell. Somebody prepared to move? Councillor Eason, second Councillor Clark. You wish to speak, Councillor Eason?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Ms Bramwell, just a question. I don't believe I can legally insure your house. How can we insure Decker properties?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Eason. There used to be a requirement within the insurance industry that you had to have a material interest in what you were insuring, but that was removed some years ago, so you can actually insure someone else's property now. Yes, you can.
Okay.
I don't know how it works with you insuring a house, but you know.
Yeah. Okay. That would worry me if someone started to insure my house. Thank you for the report. The depth made it a lot more understanding, and I think the challenges that we face are probably not as well understood by the community as I hope we are now able to understand, and maybe some of the community now understands it better. Thank you.
Further comments? Councillor Clark?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. And Ms Bramwell, thank you for the comprehensive nature of that report. That gives us significant reassurance as the council always. Just a couple of comments on those cash flow matters that you've raised. And the context for a small council like us is where we have about $12 million in rates and charges. You know, if we lose you can't collect a significant portion of that, that makes our job really, really hard in terms of delivering for the community in that context of things. So that certainly is a very much a live issue, and I know you'll keep an eye on it in that sense. It's interesting, I've been thinking back to the decision. I reckon it's probably about 15 years ago, we probably made that decision to look after those halls, and it was very much an equity decision about, you know, we're insuring these ones, we should insure those because we invest in them all. You know, we've invested council money in all of those facilities, but I think it is a really tough situation where we've got responsibility for something like the BCBC here at Beaufort or the Water Recreation Reserve directly as council, and we have obligations and we fulfil them. These committees don't report to us, they report to DECA. in that context of things, and that's where their line of responsibility is. So our capacity to actually get them to do the things we might need, it really doesn't make a lot of sense if we're buying insurance if we actually can't claim on it, doesn't it? That's really the essence of the issue in that sense. And of course, the state doesn't insure. The state just assumes we'll have a bit of a loss every year and we'll just deal with it, in a cash flow context in that sense of things. And that's a viable strategy when you've got money in the bank. It's not quite as viable when you don't have much money as we have at the moment. So, yeah, I think as you say, we'll have to keep watching this. Thank you very much, Mr. Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Councillor Clark, no further comments? I'll put the recommendation. Those in favour? That is carried. I'll hand back over to Mr. Nolan, please, for 13.4.1.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is for council to decide on the meeting schedule for council meetings and briefings for 2024. This has been prepared and workshopped to councillors. As a general rule, it includes 2 briefings each month on the second and third Tuesday afternoons, and a council meeting on the afternoon of the third Tuesday of the month, with some exceptions there. And community covers from February through to December at various locations across the Shire, as has been the custom and practice in recent years. There's a couple of exceptions to the general rule. I think there is provision for a single council meeting and briefing in January if required. And in June, the second council meeting and briefing has been put back a week for the mayor to attend the ALGA, National General Assembly. And in October, during the council election period, there's no provision being made for any council briefings or council meetings, in accordance with our caretaker period policy. So, councillors, that's the proposed schedule, and the recommendation is that council adopts the meeting schedule for 2024 as detailed in this report, and give public notice in accordance with council's policy governance rules 2022 of the proposed meeting dates.
Move Councillor Clark, seconded Councillor Keogh. Any comments, councillors?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, just one comment. It's just great that we'll be able to get around the Shire again. So thank you for that. Those dates put in.
Yeah, so I would just add that it's a great pity we don't have an aerodrome at Landsborough, because the flight from Beaufort to Landsborough for a couple is going to be a bit of a stretch. 50-minute journey, but anyway, no doubt we'll be able to accommodate that.
It's quicker from Avoca.
Yeah, I thought that. All those in favour? Carried. 13.4.2, the engagement plan. Thanks, Mr. Nolan.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. In 2022, council actually adopted and revised an engagement policy and a strategy to ensure the council appropriately engages with the community over a whole range of things. And that strategy requires the council annually considers a range of activities and prepares an annual plan of engagement. So the plan that's attached to this document, councillors, is a draft annual plan for 2024. It is a dynamic document because there are reasons for council to engage that we can't foresee at this point in time, and issues arise, and so it needs to be a dynamic document. But for the benefit of the broader community, the engagement plan does cover a whole range of activities where council does and needs to engage at different levels and in different forms, whether that be providing information to the community, whether it be consulting the community, whether it be deliberative engagement with the community to have input into the design of various aspects of council activity. And so this plan covers ordinary activities and services such as preparation of budget, fire preparation ahead of the fire season, seasonal pools, libraries, local laws, councillor cuppers, where there are a range of engagement over lots of service activities as a normal course of activities. And then there are specific things around things like the 2024 council election, where there will be engagement with the community around the election process, the requirement to vote, how voting occurs. There'll be engagement with potential candidates and so forth. There's engagement around tourism promotion through our ordinary activities and through Tourism Midwest Victoria, the agency who provides tourism promotion for our region. There'll be engagement around our advocacy, and this will be engagement with political leaders and others whom council is looking to advocate to on projects such as the North East Water Pipeline project, around housing, power supply and other utilities to our towns and services that government provides to our towns. There'll be engagement around major projects like our roads program and our road activities, as well as other infrastructure projects such as our flood recovery program around the Avoca drainage project, which is a major project to commence in 2024. Things like the Red Bank streetscape, our flood study for Lexington and so forth. And then significant external projects that are outside council control, and not council projects, but for which council will want to engage with the community. And these are things like the development of wind farms, the implementation of transmission lines, and some of these major projects that provide impact to the community and benefits to the community that council will want to hear and engage with the community about. And then opportunity for engagement with youth and our young people in our community. And we had an example of that this afternoon when we had a delegation of young people come to meet with council, and the commitment by council to actually to engage around developing a program, how we can better engage with young people. And of course, towards the end of the year, when a newly elected council is elected, there'll be the commencement of some deliberative engagement around the preparation of a new council plan. So there's some of the activities, but it's quite an extensive and long list of engagement in this annual plan, councillors, and it's there to demonstrate the broad range of engagement and to provide a reminder to councillors about the task and the need to engage. So, councillors, I put that recommendation that council endorses the community engagement plan and its activities as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Nolan. Moved Councillor Keogh, seconded Councillor Eason. Other councillors wish to speak? No? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? That is carried. We'll move through to item 14, councillor reports and general business. We'll start with Councillor Keogh, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was privileged to attend the Western Bulldogs Leadership Group graduation at the start of last month, and what an impressive group of young leaders we have across the Shire and great representation across the Shire. It was incredibly good to already be seeing the benefits of this program as well today, with 3 of the participants engaging with council at our briefing time today. So I'm very excited about working with these young leaders to bring about effective engagement and possibilities for the youth in our Shire. Very exciting. I also attended the Beaufort Ag Show, and congratulations to the many members of the committee and also to all those volunteers, both local and from partnering ag shows, that work together to create such a wonderful day out. An added note that my husband Bernard alerted me to was that the show even made it onto a YouTube blogger's blog, who this Irish backpacker, I can't remember his name, but he's a backpacker and a shearer. So it's also certainly gaining international fame as well as local fame, the local ag show, great little show. I also attended last week the Snake Valley campus of Wodayallik Primary School's end of year assembly and was honoured to award to one of the graduating Year 6 students, Abby Schofield, the Pyrenees Shire Award and the pen. It was such a lovely event showcasing what such a great little school Snake Valley has, and also how it connects the community so strongly. Beautiful bunch of students there and teachers very much committed to the work they do there. It was a beautiful morning. Finally, I'm very much also looking forward to a great community event that's coming up in Snake Valley, and that's the Community Carols. So that's being held and sponsored by the Carnham Uniting Church this coming Saturday. So the carols will be on from 4 to 6 in the church part, and then there's a great community barbecue from 6 to 8. There's even going to be a fancy dress parade and food trucks and all sorts of activities that are open to the whole community to come to. So that's this Saturday the 16th at the Carnham Uniting Church, a really wonderful evening to be had by all. So very much looking forward to that. And wishing everyone a very safe and happy Christmas and holiday period as we move into that time of the year, which has come ever so quickly this year, I think, for everyone. So thank you, all from me.
Thank you, Councillor Keogh. Councillor Ferrari.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Like the other councillors, attended the councillor briefing, the cuppa and chat. We had one at Evansford there 2 cuppas ago, and a recent one, the most recent at Snake Valley, and especially at Evansford, there was a really significant turn up of people, about 15 to 20. So that's really, really good to see they're wanting to come and speak with the council. Also had the Risk and Audit Committee with Councillor Eason, and attended the Secondary College presentation day yesterday, which was fantastic, and to see all those students get such good awards. And we've got some very talented people in our communities across a lot of different activities, from not just from education, but sports, music and arts. So we've got some very, very talented young people about, which is fantastic. Just a reminder that we will be providing the Christmas dinner at the Beaufort RSL for all those across the communities who would like to come and have dinner with the group and not be alone on Christmas Day. And you can register at the Beaufort Community House, which is at the library there, and I think you can do it online as well. And just a reminder, that's not just a Beaufort thing. We do have people come across from Avoca and also Moonabel, so that invitation for Christmas Day dinner at the RSL is extended right across the whole municipality, and we'll be more than happy to cook you up a lovely meal. And of course, it would be remiss of me not to mention that that sort of project, or that event, was started by the late Michael O'Connor, and his wife Judy passed away yesterday. So I'd just like to pass on my sincerest condolences to Judy's family. And also, in closing, I'd like to take this opportunity to wish all in the community a very Merry Christmas and a safe and prosperous New Year. And that, of course, extends to my fellow councillors and all the council staff. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Eason.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I attended the Rail Freight Alliance meeting, discussing all things rail, trying to get transports off the road, and not having a great deal of luck. We seem to be getting more and more larger vehicles traversing our highways and byways, and not much going on rail. The cuppa at Evansford was a pleasure, with that many people coming along to discuss issues that related to themselves, and it makes for a very pleasant evening when you can sit down around the table and listen to people's problems, and hopefully maybe we come up with a solution or two. Attended with the Mayor the reopening of the Avoca Men's Shed, and it was very well catered for, and it's great to see that operating again. They have a wonderful little complex there and work it very hard. The pleasure to see a couple of roads in Avoca had a gap seal placed on it. It just increases the dust suppression around the town and improves the town immeasurably. Minister Demopoulos came to have a look at the Avoca Park, the flood mitigations, the flood damage and the work done. And it was a pleasure to see the minister there having a look around. Also went to the golf club to have a look at some work that was done there. And he was genuinely interested in how things were done, how things happened. We showed him the measures on the inside of one of the shed doors as to where the floods were in 2010-11, where they were recently. And it just showed they are interested in where their money's going and what it's doing. And again, as with the previous two councillors, I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. Please be safe out there travelling around. It's not necessarily the best time to be driving, but those that have to travel, please do it safely. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Easton. Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I joined you for the presentation of the Year 6 for the Pyrenees cluster last week, or 2 weeks ago at Lexington, which was really lovely to see those schools come together, the 6 of them. And what a beautiful group of young people they are that are graduating in that sense. I also had the chance to do Warborough Primary School last year, which was also last week, which was also a bit nostalgic. That ends our 15 years at Warborough as parents at the same time, in that sense of thing, because our littlest one's off to high school next year. Excuse me. My regular committees, CVGA had our AGM last month, and that was very, very well attended. And our Highlands Land meets later this week. In terms of MAB activity, obviously it's been very planning focused. I was able to attend the regional forum with a number of other rural and regional councils in Bendigo a few weeks ago, and that was really good. And we're starting to see that the Victorian Government roll out now its plans for Victoria workshops, and I'm attending one of those on Thursday in that sense of things. The announcement of the doubling of roads to recovery funding in the last couple of weeks has been terrific, and I wrote about it last week in my councillor column. It's a terrific boost for a small rural council such as us in that sense of things, and really helps us. And I'd like to think it was on the back of the roadshow that we did, but I think it was actually on the back of the Grattan Institute's independent national report that said that councils are about $1 billion short. This gets us about halfway towards that.
No, it was our roadshow.
We'll stick with that, I reckon, Councillor Easton, wouldn't we? Yeah. Just in terms of community cuppers, again, have attended those, and they've been really good. Just in terms of the Evansford one, I know there was a number of issues raised about road speed limits. So I'm just working with those community members both to focus them on a couple of specific roads at the moment, and things being well, I'll hopefully have something to council officers first to consider maybe in January around those areas. But I'm just working with the community at the moment to just get some more information in that sense. And finally, to all our constituents, to the council staff and my fellow councillors, wish you well for a safe and happy Christmas.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. The Mayor has been, I attended a Beaufort Linear Master Plan public meeting here in the Baripmo Centre back at the start of November. There were about 15 people there, and an interesting evening. We had a small group that back onto the proposed area around below the high school, and they were a little bit concerned about traffic being increased in an area where they usually only just use it as a rear entrance to their property. That was interesting. On Remembrance Day, I attended the service at here in Beaufort, where the ladies unveiled the Krupp's gun. There were about 7 ladies there from the local charity group. They had donated $50,000 to the restoration of the Krupp's gun, so that was fantastic on their behalf, and they were well and truly recognised by Dan Tehan for their wonderful effort. That same night I attended the Legacy changeover dinner in Ararat, which was a very pleasant evening. The Evansford Cuppa was nothing but interesting. It's nice to have 15 people turn up, and about 13 of them had different views that they were putting forward, so that was great. Along with Councillor Easton, I attended the opening of the men's shed in Avoca, and I'd like to pay tribute to Jane, who put such a great effort in to assist the Avoca community in getting their club rooms and all the insurance and everything organised. Well done, Jane Belka. I attended the regional forum for the MAV virtually. I attended the art show on the Friday night prior to the Ag show on the Sunday and declared the evening open. Interesting to see that the piece of art that was selected for the council was somewhat different, but somewhat Maggie Oakes Burns, typical of her, and it was, if you study it closely, it's a nice piece of art, I think. Well done. Then on the Sunday, I attended the show. Spent a lot of time watching the shearing, I must admit, but I did get around to all other events, but I was very interested in the shearing. I virtually attended an MAV Southern Wimmera Mallee Central Highlands regional meeting, which Councillor Clark was partaking, and Councillor Emerson from the Northern Gramps was the convener. I had a RCV committee meeting virtually on the 24th, and that's about that bunch. I, along with Councillor Eason, attended the Avoca session with the Minister, Dimopoulos. He was amazed to think that volunteers run the whole centre there at Avoca. Couldn't believe that sort of thing. You didn't see that in Melbourne. He grew up in Melbourne, of course, and he'd never witnessed volunteers putting in the efforts from 8:30 in the morning, probably 8:30 at night or later, if the bar was still open. But it was good for him to, and when he went round to the golf course, he struck another bunch of volunteers that run the golf club, so that was great.
He was amazed when he went to the netball courts, and there sitting on the bank outside the fence was about 20 sheep. And he's gone, sheep? What are the sheep doing there? They're grazing.
And along with the our CEO, I attended a GBAC meeting last Friday, and we had an interesting session. There was a fair bit of talk afterwards, but prior to the going to lunch, we did have some discussion about investment in housing and projects like we've got up in Burke Street, where we can get the infrastructure, so there'll be a fairly heavy bit of lobbying to the government. There's money there, $150 million, I believe, Mr. CEO, or is that figure even higher?
Well, the government has committed $1 billion in regional Victoria for housing.
Yeah. So it's certainly well worth following up from that part. And the Penn Awards at Lexington. And to finish off, I also would like to offer my opinion about Christmas. Surely we can have a wonderful, stress-free Christmas. And I'd like to also express my opportunity to say to any viewers that are looking tonight, you have a wonderful Christmas too, and stay safe. We need you all back in 2024. With that, I will ask for a motion. We'll some confidential move. Councillor Easton, seconded Councillor Keogh. Carried. We will close the meeting to the public and discuss some confidential issues that are before us and return after decisions have been made. Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Trev.